What's up, YouTube? Welcome to Bible Wisdom. I wanted to give my take on the end of the world. Why I believe we are still around Revelation chapter 6 is because I don't see any record of the end of chapter 6 where it says all the islands and all the mountains fled away and there is no place found for them. And if you notice in Revelation chapter 6, it says that towards the end. And so, I don't know of any record in history where, someone has said that the islands have, fled away or the mountains have fled away. I can't really think of anything like that. So I think that's a pretty big indication that the events in past Revelation chapter 6 hasn't happened yet. And so, how I think that eventually Jesus from heaven is going to start opening the different seals that Revelation chapter 6 talks about. He's going to start opening the seals, which on earth starts to change things and eventually progresses to the tribulation and then the great tribulation, or just the tribulation in general. Some people break it up, but after Jesus breaks open the different seals, which from memory I believe there's 6 of them, and then it goes to a few other judgments. I think there's bowl judgments. I think there's trumpets as well. I don't have it in front of me right now. And I know some people tend to put Revelation in history and try to say that some of the events in Revelation have already happened in history. And I'm not fully convinced that that is the case. And so, the first seal being opened talks about, the person who is conquering, and he's just conquering different parts of the world. And so, that's what I believe is the first seal. And I don't know if that has actually started happening. I know in a way we can say that Russia is trying to conquer Ukraine, and they haven't necessarily been successful fully. I guess they have been successful, but I don't know if that fully has happened yet. So I tend to believe that we are around Revelation chapter 6 and progressing from there until we actually enter, the tribulation and the Antichrist rises to power, which, we know that hasn't happened yet because the Bible describes him as doing a whole bunch of signs and lying wonders and miracles to persuade those who aren't Christ followers to follow after him. And so, I believe that Revelation describes all future events. And so I don't see a place for the Gog-Magog war. I know a lot of people tend to say that there's a Gog-Magog war that is supposed to happen before the tribulation or, before the rapture. But to me, that's all speculation. There's no real facts for that. And to me, the fact is that Revelation describes every event, that's going to happen all the way up until the time of eternity. God has already described everything. And so Revelation has nothing about a Gog-Magog war where, all these countries invade Israel. It only has that towards the end of the book of Revelation, and that's where I believe the Gog-Magog war fits in. And my point is that, yes, I do believe there is a Gog-Magog war. If you want to call it that, but I believe that it's towards the end of the book of Revelation where the book of Revelation actually uses the word Gog and Magog. The book itself uses those words. And so to me, why would God use those words again to describe, a second Gog-Magog war? It doesn't really seem to make sense. Plus, God calls all the birds to eat the flesh of the dead people that happened from the war. And, we know that same thing happens in the book of Revelation towards the end, where all the birds come and eat all the dead flesh. And so why would God do that twice? It seems unlikely that God would do that same thing twice. And, there's a few examples of God, not really doing major events, major miracles more than once in the same exact way. Obviously I can't necessarily say that, but a great example is Noah's flood. That happened one time, and God promised that he would never flood the world again, even though he does promise that he is going to judge the world again in a different way. So it's the same thing in a way, but he also said that he wasn't going to, flood the world with water. So there is some evidence that, God wouldn't do something the exact same way. And so for there to be a Gog-Magog war that people are saying that's going to happen, right now, seems a bit inaccurate. But anyway, so the first seal talks about someone conquering, and he goes on to conquer, and it doesn't necessarily say he's conquering the whole world. The next seal, the second seal that's opened is, a spirit that causes people to kill one another. And so, that's supposed to happen. And those two events, I guess, are kind of general. We obviously see that today. And there are, I guess, examples in history of, one country conquering another. But my point is that, how we are still in Revelation chapter 6, is that, a great example would be the islands, fleeing away. Every island left its place. And so that's kind of the indication that I got that we aren't past Revelation chapter 6. So anyway, thanks for watching this video. There's a lot of good end time videos out there where people give different opinions. But I do believe in the rapture, that we will be connected with those who have passed away that are in Jesus. And I believe in that. Jesus said that he is going to prepare a place for us, and that he will take us to be with him where he is. And so, I believe that's true, that Jesus will take us to be with him where he is. It's just, he gives no indication of the timing. And, I can see that it could be, before the tribulation, for sure. But the good news is, we're not appointed to wrath. And so the different plagues that happen in the tribulation, don't apply to us. If you are a follower of Jesus. And also, Jesus does say in Revelation chapter 3 that he will keep us from the hour of trial. And even though he's specifically talking to one church, we tend to apply that to every church, that exists now. He wrote that down for all of us to read even later on. So, Jesus does say to pray that we escape. He said that in the Gospels, even though it's not in Revelation. It's actually in one of the Gospels that he said to, pray that we escape all that will happen and be counted worthy. And so, again, obviously he was writing that to, or he said that. He wasn't writing when he said that. It's just a written record of his speech. But, anyway, I say all that to say that, there does seem to be an indication that we can, escape, the tribulation. And I can understand how that could be in the form of a rapture. Especially the parable of the 5 wise and 5 foolish virgins. The 5 wise go into the wedding, and it seems like that is a parable to describe how the wedding seems to indicate some part of heaven. It seems to be an analogy about going to heaven, and the foolish ones don't qualify to go into heaven immediately, even though they come later. So anyway, there's a lot of unknowns in scripture, but I did want to give my take on until I possibly get more understanding. I did want to make a video about how I believe that we're around the timeline of the Revelation chapter 6, and somewhere, I don't know if we're at the beginning of the first seal or not, but it seems like the events will happen continuously once it starts, instead of like it's been happening periodically throughout history. It seems like once Jesus opens the first seal, he's going to open the second one, he's going to open a third one, and then it's going to go to the other judgments, the bowl judgments, and then we're entering into the tribulation. And so it seems like it's one consecutive thing. And that's why, it doesn't make sense for it to happen in history, because it seems like Revelation describes, all the events happening continuously. And so if it was in history, where are the other events that are pretty drastic in the book of Revelation? Those things haven't happened. And so it seems like they're going to happen, and God's waiting to open, the first seal, and then it will all happen. Because, Jesus said that it will be like the days of Noah and like the days of Lot, when it was like business as usual. It was a normal day until the judgment came. And, I think it's at the end of Revelation chapter 6 where they say that, oh no, the wrath of God has come. And so those words are actually at the end of Revelation chapter 6. And so, if that's the wrath of God, when they're saying, the people are saying, oh, hide us from the face of the Lamb, because the day of his wrath has come, then, it doesn't seem like we're past that point. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I will talk to you on the next video. See ya.